Okay, inverse functions. What are inverse functions? Well, you would have seen these before at GCSE. Let me give you some examples. So here is a very simple function. The function is take something and add 2 to it. What does the inverse function do? The inverse function is written with a -1. The inverse function will take a number and it will subtract by 2. Okay, the relationship between them is if a function takes you from something, from some input to some output, then the inverse function should undo that. Let's have a look at some. So here is some function. So the function is, it takes a number, it multiplies it by -4, and it adds 3. You might think that's a weird way of writing it, but I'd encourage you to perhaps write it this way, as it's a bit more useful. So how can you find the inverse function of this? Well, probably the most common way you would have seen at GCSE is like this. So instead of writing f of x, write y. So y means like the output. So the output comes from, and I am going to do it this way around, comes from your input being multiplied by -4 and then adding 3. So an inverse function by definition means the x and the y's change places. So that's what I'm going to do with my algebra. So for the inverse function, this is the statement that I'm going to work forward from. And then the rest of the goal is to get the y part on its own. So I'm going to add 4y to both sides, and I'm going to minus x at the same time. And that would give me this. So that would give me 4y equals minus x plus 3. And I'm now going to get the y on its own by dividing by 4. So I'm going to write y equals minus x plus 3 all over 4. To be a bit more sort of proper, what I could do is I could write that in proper notation. So the inverse function is minus x plus 3 over 4. Okay? And that explains now how to reverse, In this case, it's a bit more difficult, but the same steps still work. So I'm going to write it this way first. I'm going to swap the x's and the y's around. So x equals y plus 2 over 2y minus 1. And the manipulation is a bit more difficult. So if I bring the denominator up, I get 2xy, and expand, 2xy minus x equals y plus 2.